Are you any happier than you can be on a golf course? Is this Cito Gaston's domain these days?
Absolutely, I love it. I get a chance to play about 4 days a week, sometimes five, and I have a great time. I travel and play golf, and I do a lot of golf tournaments as I'm doing right now today with Robbie Alomar. Yesterday we had Tony Fernandez. Next week we had 19th of 20 we have Joe Carter, and I'm not sure when the Blue Jays tournament.
As much as you loved managing Cito, how high is the stress level for a manager?
Well, it's pretty high, and it's high because you're pretty much by yourself. You know, they're nice enough to give you a suite on the road, but you're still by yourself and alone. And it's tough sometimes. But you know, I was fortunate enough to have some good players, and a lot of them out here today supporting Robbie's cause. And it's nice to see Jack here, who just went into the Hall of Fame. Very proud of that. Should have been there a long time ago. But I had good players and guys that would run through that wall for me.
As a manager, Cito, how do you get a team out of a slump when you have racked your brain trying to get a team out of a slump?
Well, you know, I think if anybody really knew the answer to that, boy, they'd be a genius. You know, it could be one little thing. It could just be one guy that went over 20, he drives in a couple of runs. But we're lucky. I mean, we're lucky that we didn't have guys that stayed in slumps too long, or we didn't have too many losing streaks, especially in the 92 and 93 season, even though they were two different teams. The 92 teams, I think we had just about everything. We had good pitching, a good starting pitching, a good bullpen, and a good defense, and we had some hitters. But in 1993, we didn't have the great starting pitching we had before. We didn't have the depth in the bullpen like we had the year before, but we had three guys finish first, second in the league and hitting. And so we just overpowered people, which is kind of unusual to do and hard to do in baseball.
As good as those teams were, when you added Dave Winfield in '93, a guy who's or '92, a guy who's hungry, wants to get that World Series again. Then you add Paul Molitor in '93, hungry, wants that World Series opportunity again. What did those two guys in those 2 years bring to the team that you already had?
Well, two different guys. Dave is a leader, and Molitor is a leader too. But Dave's a leader not only on the field but vocally in the clubhouse. He's a leader. Molitor is a leader on the field. He just shows you how to do it, and he goes out and get it done. Actually, Molitor, when the game started, Molly got really mean. He got tough. Really? He got tough out there, and he's a winner.
What do you think of him as a manager?
Oh, I think he's doing a great job. Every time I get a chance, I see him teaching his players, and I believe in that. I think as a manager, you also not only you manage, you teach too. And I see him talking to his players, and when I see that, I text him once in a while and say, hey, I like what you're doing. Keep doing it.
Molitor's work ethic in the cage was something of legend. There's talk about him being in the cage and practicing going opposite, practicing going ground balls, practicing popping up. Was he one of those guys where you could look to and say, I cannot believe how hard you're working at being a great baseball player?
Well, that's why he's a great baseball player, because he did work hard.
There you go.
And you know what? He's probably the quickest hands you ever want to see, because he barely moved, but he would explode at the end on you. And just a great hitter. You think about it, and I might have the stats wrong here, but Molitor's got, what, 3,500 hits, something like that?
Holy.
And he spent almost 6 years on a DL, different times. So he would probably be the all-time leader in hits if he had not been on the DL. That's how great a hitter he was.
And you mentioned DL, and as you said, Paul spent so much time in his early days on the DL. And I know a lot of fans, they see the injury struggles that a guy like Devin Travis has gone through. And I always look at Paul Molitor and say, a team shouldn't give up on a kid that has a lot of talent because they have injuries early in their career, because you never know how it's going to happen. As a guy that managed and coached so many different players, do you look at a guy going through injuries as being unfortunate as opposed to quote-unquote injury-prone?
I would say unfortunate. And, if the guy's really injured, yeah. Unfortunate. But, some guys are that way. I mean, Tulowitzki's been hurt a lot all his career. It's just some guys go through it and some guys don't. But some guys go through it and they come out of it like Paul did. And they go on to be good players. So also you shouldn't give up on young kids either, because it depends on what part of the country they come from. I know Travis, he's from Florida, I believe. So he played a lot. And a lot of guys come from the north. They don't get to play that much. So once they get some games under their belt, they turn out to be good players, especially kids in the minor leagues that they come down to Florida and they play the summer in the Florida and it just about kills them. with the heat, and sometimes people give up on them. Those are guys you got to keep. You got to keep them a little bit longer and see what they can do.
Cito, we have a couple of questions from our listeners who are big fans of yours. But before we get to those questions, what does it mean to you after all these years to be able to walk around the city of Toronto and just see how many people still remember you and appreciate you? Because I think at the time, maybe I would say that you could have been unappreciated or not appreciated enough. And I think that just goes with being a manager in some ways, because you see all the fingers that point at John Gibbons all the time. But what does it mean to you to have the fans still really welcome you and give you that warmth?
Well, it's a good feeling, of course. And the fans, I give the fans all the credit for us being successful, because in the early days, we have a couple of three guys out here today that George Bell, Lord Mosby, and Jesse Barfield, who was part of building this organization, because they put the people in the stands. And we took it a little bit further, and fans kept coming and gave us a chance to go out and get players like Jack Mars, Dave Winfield, Paul Molitor, so on and on. But for me, the fans have always been great to me. When I meet them on the street, I always have time for them, because without them, I wouldn't have these 2 World Series rings.
Matt, you got a couple of questions from those fans.
Absolutely. The first one is from @SeriouslyJ. Cito, because of the '94 MLB strike, the season ended prematurely and they did not have a World Series. Had the strike not happened, how do you think the Jays would have fared? Do you think Toronto could have made it 3 in a row?
No, we were going the other way at that particular time. I think the sad thing that year is the Montreal Expos.
Absolutely.
That's the sad part of that. At that particular time, I didn't have a closer, and we got off to a pretty good start that year, but I tried everybody out of the bullpen. I took some guys off the starting staff. I even tried Stottlemyre too. We just didn't have a closer on that team, so we struggled quite a bit. I think we finished the season that year in last place.
What do you think of this theory that you're seeing in Tampa now, where they're actually starting their closer? Is that something that would ever have crossed your mind as a manager?
The big smile from Cito.
It wouldn't cross my mind. But the kid that they doing that to, I can understand that. He can get through one end. They pitch him one end, and he's a breaking ball pitcher. Got a lot of the kid's got a lot of energy, and I can see that happening with him. But I don't think a lot of people are going to try that. It will burn up your bullpen a little bit too. Yeah.
Next question is from Susan Ross. What is your favorite golf course, hopefully one in Scotland?
Yeah, Sue's from Scotland. You probably know Sue. She's about 4'0", and she's been a Blue Jays season ticket holder for many. Yeah.
I know. She used to live close to me. I know her for sure. And Scotland, I know she's from Scotland too. We played at Dornart, and we played a lot of great golf courses there. And it's funny when we were playing in Florida, there's a little rain and maybe a little wind, and everybody's crying about it. And I said, "This is a great day in Scotland, boys. So let's keep going." But I know she's a big fan, and all the best to her. I think she got married about 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, she's a big fan of ours, and she's always been a great fan. But I would say I played a lot of great golf courses there. They're fun, and a couple of guys I'm playing with today, one guy kind of chases the ball up on the green with his 6-iron, and I said, "Where'd you learn that from?" He said, "In Scotland." Because you can't land it in the air in Scotland. It would run right off the back.
Before we wrap up, can you please make it clear to Matt and all of our listeners what you actually saw in me as a ball player?
Good
Fantasy
Lord,
Kid.
here we go.
You never managed me personally, but you managed against me, and you saw the progression that I made as a manager. Give me your scouting report on me.
Cito, can we end this now?
No, that's okay, because he probably don't even know what I thought of him, so I have to tell him. You played hard. You played hard. You tried to do everything you could to do it right too, and you took a lot of heat from all of us. But we all love you. We're just messing with you. But you did play hard, and that's what I seen is you wanted to play and you played hard.
You wanted me on your team, didn't you?
Absolutely, but you wouldn't play for me. I don't know what's the story.
I was holding out for more money.
You're not playing anymore, are you?
No.
Contract dispute.
On that happy note, Cito, go enjoy the rest of your day on the golf course. Thank you so much for doing this. And you look great. So, I mean, you never know. I still might want to see you in a uniform again someday.
Well, we'll see. I'm a little old right now. But thanks for all the kind words. And hope you guys have a good day, too. Thank you.
Thank you, Cito. It's a pleasure, my man.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, guys.
All right, enjoy.
Thanks.